So right after I finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, played it for a little over 100 hours, and then proceeded to make a half an hour long video talking about my personal feelings on playing games that feel a little bit too long, that have so much content, but overall having an enjoyable time with those games and not knowing if I want to play games that long again. What's the next game that I went and started? Of course, it's Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne. I've already put in about 8 to 10 hours into this game, and even though before this I haven't really played much of the Megaten games or the Persona games, but with the upcoming release of Metaphor ReFantazio, I just kind of got this huge burst of desire to jump into where the foundation of that game has been, and that's in the Shin Megami Tensei games. And so with all of that said, I'm excited to tell you guys about my first impressions with Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne. So this video is going to be structured in 3 parts. This first part, I'm going to talk to you guys kind of about how my experience with the Shin Megami Tensei series has been, my experience with the Persona games, and just kind of my whole background when it comes to these games. After that, I'll talk a little bit about why I decided to specifically play Shin Megami Tensei III as my first SMT game. And then, of course, I'll talk about my current kind of overall thoughts and opinions on the game now that I've played the game for about 8 to 10 hours. And before I really get into it, if you are a fan of the Shin Megami Tensei games, if you're a fan of the Persona games, and you are excited for Metaphor ReFantazio, go ahead and click this video right here. I'll leave a little tab up here as well as a link in the description to watch this video that I made, basically just talking about how excited I am for Metaphor ReFantazio. So if you have not seen that video yet and you are pumped for that game, go get hyped with me, watch that video that's up there, and let's talk about Shin Megami Tensei. If you followed my channel or maybe even my Twitch account a few years back whenever I was streaming on Twitch, one of the first games that I really decided to try to play was Shin Megami Tensei IV. I had never played any of the Shin Megami Tensei games. I played a little bit of Persona 3 on the PS2 and a little bit of Persona 5 on the PlayStation 4. But other than those 2 Persona games, I had never played a Shin Megami Tensei game all the way up until the point where I decided, you know what, I'm streaming. I've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game before. I've got a pretty powerful PC now that can run 3DS games. I might as well play Shin Megami Tensei 4 because I hear that it's got some of the highest reviews out of any of the Shin Megami Tensei games. And obviously that series kind of precedes the Persona series in many ways, so I kind of just wanted to try that one out. For the handful of hours that I put into that game, I actually had a really good time. I know I didn't really get too far into that game, at least far enough to where the game really does start to change. I know about some of those early game changes of Shin Megami Tensei IV, but I never really got to that point while I was streaming. I've also got 2 children and trying to work multiple full-time jobs as well as making YouTube videos and streaming. One of those things had to give, so now I'm not necessarily streaming anymore, so I felt a little bit guilty continuing to play Shin Megami Tensei IV since I wasn't going to be streaming my experience with the game. And since I stopped playing Shin Megami Tensei IV, I really have not played anything Megaten, no Persona games. I even purchased the Royal Edition of Persona 5 as well as Persona 5 Tactica, and just recently picked up Persona 3 Reload. I have not played anything since I stopped streaming a few years ago. But that kind of brings us to today and this week, really. I've been really excited about Metaphor ReFantazio, and just recently, me and my buddy DJ over at Mushroom Man and JRPG, we went out to the Austin Classic Games Fest, which was out here in downtown Austin, Texas. So we had a great time. We got to see a lot of vendors. We got to sell some games. We got to pick up a bunch of really nice goodies and things like that. Many times that I was over there, I was seeing lots of games in the Megaten franchise. And one of the games that I did constantly see at many of the vendors was Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne. I was seeing so many posters for games like Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance as well, so having all of these things that were Shin Megami Tensei and Persona kind of just being pushed into my face while I was walking around at all of these vendors and being so pumped up for Metaphor ReFantazio, I've just had it on the mind. I've just been thinking about the Megaten franchise over these last few weeks. So on my own time, I've kind of been dabbling with a couple of shorter video games, nothing that's going to be too long, but I couldn't stop thinking about the Megaten games. I wanted to play some type of Shin Megami Tensei game, and I just didn't know which one to play. Do I go back and finish what I started with Shin Megami Tensei IV? Do I go out and pick up the new game, Shin Megami Tensei V? And then I realized I already purchased and owned the HD remaster of Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne like 2 or 3 years ago. Whenever the game came out, I'm pretty sure I picked it up for like 40 or 50 bucks back when it was new, and it's just been sitting in my game collection, and I just haven't touched it at all. Really, to put it simply, I just thought, screw it, I've got to tackle my backlog one way or another, so I popped it into my PS5, and I just started playing Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne, and before we really go into it, I just want to say that I love this game. Like I mentioned in my Metaphor ReFantazio kind of hype video, I talk about how one of the things that I love from story-driven fantasy settings, in video games in particular, is whenever we decide to kind of put away this idea of hardcore graphical fidelity in favor of focusing on incredible artistic design. I never played this game back on the PS2, and a piece of me kind of wishes that I had, because playing it on an old CRT television with the lighting and the setting and the character models and things like that, I can really feel that this game was probably something really special to those who played it back on the PS2. But now that I'm playing it on modern hardware, none of that is to say that I haven't been feeling how incredible this artistic design is on modern hardware, on modern hardware as well. The setup of the game is pretty incredible. You're a high school student and you come back to Tokyo, and pretty much everyone is freaking out because there's been a horrible disaster where people have been dying. There's been so many deaths all over the place. A lot of people have different theories about what caused the deaths. Then you eventually meet up with two of your friends over at this hospital where people just have even more rumors circulating about the hospital and that there's a bunch of occult activity happening on surrounding the hospital, and maybe the occult stuff is what's causing all of the deaths in Tokyo. Like, what's going on here? I really felt that the initial grip, that intrigue to its narrative was pretty strong, and I was pretty intrigued from the beginning. And when you start controlling your character and walking around the hospital setting, there's just a random door that doesn't seem very conspicuous from the outside, but then you walk inside and there is clear demonic presence happening inside of this hospital with ritualistic design all over the place. And that is one thing that I have found very interesting about this game. And I know that a lot of the Shin Megami Tensei games kind of have this in their nature, but the focus on kind of that demonic artistic design in particular is what this game really focuses in on. Whether or not that type of artistic design is your cup of tea, I personally felt that the really dark, brooding, demonic presence in the game paired up with a lot of the post-apocalyptic setting of it as well. I thought that it was actually all kind of in a very twisted way, very beautiful. I've actually recently been reading a whole lot of Berserk, and let me tell you, a lot of the parallels here and the influences that the creator of the Shin Megami Tensei games has taken from the creator of Berserk, you can tell that there's just a lot of influence there. Aside from just Berserk, as somebody who loves JRPGs and things like that, I've recently been pretty interested in the more Gnosticism side of storytelling when it comes to contemporary or modern settings, kind of using a lot of that old school folklore and medieval and old theological kind of ideas to talk about angels and demons and the spiritual realm and the real world and things like that. Just personally, I'm going through this game feeling like I'm kind of learning a little bit about that Gnostic way of thinking when it comes to approaching storytelling in that way. And if you've never played a Persona game or a Shin Megami Tensei game, the closest thing that I can compare the gameplay to is kind of like Pokemon. If you've played any other sort of monster catching game, you go throughout this game collecting demons. But believe you me, it is not as easy as just throwing a Pokeball and catching a demon. No, you've got to win them over into your party through a series of, unfortunately, very tedious and random conversational options. Maybe a demon is going to ask you to give them some money or one of your items in your inventory. You have the option to comply and give them what they want or deny them. Sometimes they'll ask you a question about philosophy or life or death and things like that. Basically, every option is a 50-50 chance of picking what the demon wants you to pick. There isn't really a guide to catching specific demons. A lot of the conversation questions and answers are very random. Basically, all of them are. So if you are trying your best to catch demons, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. You're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to lose a lot of items in your inventory. Sometimes demons are going to run away, but then sometimes they enter your party. And that's great because then you can recruit them, you can throw them into battle, and you can use the abilities that they have, and they gain new abilities after leveling up. There's a whole system where you can fuse two demons together to create a stronger demon or a similar demon that you have that is just, you know, a higher level or has more abilities and things like that. There's a lot of customization when it comes to the actual demon recruiting mechanic into the game. And I like it and I kind of don't like it. I love it because of the complexity and its gameplay style, but I hate it because of the RNG. If you remember back in the 90s when Pokemon came out, there was kind of this push in a lot of evangelical circles and things like that Pokemon was demonic and you were handing your children over to the demons of this world by letting them play Pokemon. That obviously isn't true about Pokemon, but let me tell you, Shin Megami Tensei feels like this is the game that those parents were actually worried about. Like I said, there's a ton of evil in this game when it comes to a lot of its kind of celebration of demons in that way. And like I said, this may or may not be your cup of tea. That's obviously something for you to decide. But if you're just someone like me who just wants to play a cool game with a cool artistic design that is telling an engaging story that's going to make you think, and it's going to, you know, have you just questioning things about maybe your own life or what's going on in the story of the game, trying to put pieces together that way. If you're someone like me in that regard, you're probably going to really, really, really enjoy this game. There's been a few little instances where I've found there to be a bit of tedium, things like going to find items, like junk to bring to a character that's going to give you another item so that you can open a door. Like, you're going to be backtracking a little bit. You're going to be doing a lot of trial and error and running back and forth, seeing what doors open for you, what characters have new information for you. There's the Amala network, I believe that's what it's called, but it's basically an in-between realm where you are going through labyrinths and solving puzzles and backtracking through there as well. Overall, this PS4 remaster of this PS2 game really has just felt like a PS2 game, a very good PS2 game, but there's really nothing about the game as a whole where it adds many quality of life changes that really justify picking up the PS2 version or the remaster. That's really only based on what hardware you have. If you have a PS2, you may actually just be better off playing the PS2 version. I'm not totally sure. I don't have that game, even though I had many options to pick it up at Classic Game Fest. I just have the PlayStation 4 remaster, and I've been enjoying it a lot. All of its kind of PS2 outdated mechanics and flaws and things like that, you know, still intact. I really don't mind. I'm able to look past it. So if that's something that you're able to look past too as well, I personally think you might want to check out this game. Also, just on the topic of this being a remaster of a PS2 game, from what I understand from reading online about the original game on PS2, the music was very, very compressed, and that was, I believe, widely considered to be because of just how big this game is. Fitting higher quality music into that original PS2 game just wasn't an option for them, from what I understand. So you would think that with having the updated remaster of this game on consoles that can hold in a lot more storage, on discs that can hold a lot more storage than what we were holding on the PS2, you would think that they would do some improving on things so little, like preserving the music and making it more high quality and high definition in the ears. But man, the music is actually still very, very compressed in the remaster, which is incredibly bizarre to me. I don't know why they did this. I don't know why they just didn't. I mean, other people online have literally patched the PC port of this game to give you higher quality sound files and things like that, but on the base game, and I have a fully updated version playing it here over halfway through 2024 already, and we still are dealing with incredibly compressed sound files here for music that I think actually is well made. I think it's really good music, and for the setting here, I like the music in the game, but listening to it actually really sucks because it's so compressed. Why they didn't fix that, I'm not totally sure. It's really kind of a nitpick. Obviously, in a game like this, the sound is a big component, so I don't know. That's a big one for me, specifically. I want the music and the sound design to be well made, and it just feels, as far as a remaster goes, it was pretty lazy on that front. However, a new thing added to this game that, from what I understand, is not in the original PS2 game is actually voice acting. Not every single line in the game here is voice acted, but from what I can hear, I really don't have any issues with the voice acting at all. You have the option to listen to it in Japanese and in English. I just decided to throw on the English voice acting, and like I said, as someone who speaks English and understands English pretty well, I really don't see any issues in the voice acting whatsoever. So that's a good thing in my book. I like the voice acting. I know a lot of people talk about the difficulty in these old Shin Megami Tensei games and stuff, and sure, this game can get a little hard every now and then, but if you're someone who knows RPGs and you know customizing your character and spending time in your menus trying to build a good team, you know, for your party, there's really not a whole lot about this game that is too different from other RPGs. If you are someone who finds the game to be a little bit difficult, and there are definitely some like difficulty spikes, like whenever you fight the skeleton guy, Matador, I think is his name. Whenever you fight that dude, yeah, there's definitely a difficulty spike there, but thankfully the game also lets you change difficulty whenever you want in the game. So if you're someone who is having trouble and you just need to get through a boss battle just so that you can, you know, save that time that you would just be restarting, going back to your old save file, going back to where you were to fight the battle, watching all the cutscenes again, you know, you can just make the difficulty a little easier on yourself, just so that you're not beating yourself up for not finishing a quote-unquote really, really tough video game. Anyways, that's really it. I just wanted to hop on here and tell you guys kind of how it's going for me playing through my very first Shin Megami Tensei game. Like I had mentioned, I had played a little bit of Shin Megami Tensei IV while I was streaming, but this is, I think, the one that I'm going to actually sit down and finish from start to finish. So I'm really enjoying it. I love it. I'm kind of looking forward to playing something like Shin Megami Tensei V whenever I'm done with this game. I have heard some things here and there that Shin Megami Tensei 3 and 5 are kind of very loosely related to each other, so I'm pumped to try that one as well. So anyways, I'm just loving this game. If you are a fan of the Shin Megami Tensei series or of the Persona games, or you're looking forward to Metaphor like I am, go ahead and give this video a like, go ahead and subscribe, and go ahead and hit the notification bell as well so that you're notified whenever I upload new videos like this, where I'm just talking to the camera, telling you guys about games that I'm playing. This is kind of of something that I want to do moving forward, just because, I don't know, I feel like some people are maybe interested in seeing what I'm doing instead of going months and months without seeing any video from me. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment as well. I love just getting to talk to you guys and read all of what you guys have to say about the games that I'm talking about, upcoming games, games that are older. I love just having conversations with you guys. So go ahead and tell me what you think about the Shin Megami Tensei series. Tell me what you think about Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne. Are you as much of a fan as I am at this moment? I'm really digging this game. Does it get better after 10 hours? I'm not totally sure yet. I'm still playing it, but let me know all of your thoughts down below. And while you're also down there, go ahead and join the Discord as well. There's a ton of other like-minded individuals, kind of like me, who like story-driven games, like JRPGs. If that's you, join the Discord down below. Anyways, guys, those are all my thoughts on Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne. Like I keep on saying over and over again, I'm looking forward to finishing this game. I'm looking forward to other things that Atlus has made, whether it be upcoming or previous games like Shin Megami Tensei IV, Shin Megami Tensei V, the Persona series, and especially I'm really looking forward to Metaphor ReFantazio. So with all of that said, I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.